I've scored perfectly on the math section of back-to-back SAT tests, and in today's video, I'll be doing a walkthrough of the Digital SAT Practice Test 3's math section, both sections 1 and section 2. So without further ado, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's go ahead and get started with question number 1. So we have, what is the solution to the given equation? Well, let's go ahead and start by subtracting 12 from both sides to isolate k. When we do that, we're going to end up with 336 minus 12. That'll leave us with 324 is equal to the value of k, and our answer there will be B. Moving on to question number 2. Function f is defined by f of x is equal to x cubed plus 15. What is the value of f of 2? All we got to do is plug in that 2 for the value of x. When we do that, we're going to have 2 cubed plus 15. 2 cubed is equal to 8. 8 plus 15 is equal to 23, and our answer there will be C. Moving on to question number 3. We have Sean rents a tent at a cost of $11 per day plus a one-time insurance fee of $10. So I'll write that D actually is lowercase, plus an insurance fee of $10. Which equation represents the total cost, C, in dollars to rent the tent with insurance for D days? Okay, I want to do that lowercase d because if I do an uppercase D, it looks like a 0. But anyways, ultimately we need our total cost equation. It says total cost is C, so we know that's going to be $11 per day plus that $10 one-time insurance fee. So if we look at our options, we've got B and A, and then we've got C and D. We've got D would be incorrect because it's showing that that's $10 per day. We know it's $11 per day plus that $10 one-time charge. So our answer there is C. Going ahead and moving on to question number 4. Okay, if any of you are not subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you will be, and also hit notifications and turn those on so that you're notified as I upload more videos to help you prepare for the digital SAT. But here's question 4. We've got in the figure shown line M is parallel to line N. What is the value of X? Okay, key thing here is understanding corresponding angles. This angle here of 26 corresponds with this angle here. So they'll both be 26. From there, it's really easy to calculate X because we know that we have that 180 degrees from that semicircle. And then we go ahead and subtract the 26 degrees, and that'll leave us with the value of X. 180 minus 26 leave us with 154 as the value of X. So our answer there will be D. All right, moving on to question number 5. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37. All right, so total 165 makes a down payment 37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each. So plus $16 every time he makes his monthly payment P. Which of the following equations represents the situation? One tip that I have for you for the SAT math section is as you read through a question, try to start writing down coefficients and variables and try to form your equation or your system of equations or your system of inequalities as you go through, because that'll save you time at the end because you won't have to do as much rereading or potentially any rereading. In this case, we're asked which of the following equations represents the situation. We know he's got total cost 165, the one-time payment or down payment 37, and then $16 for every payment P. So if we look at our options, we've all got the 165. Some of these have minus 37, but that 37 should be plus. It's not a plus 16. That 16 should be attached to the P. We got plus 37 equals 165. Moving on to question number 6. And one thing I would really appreciate is if you would share these videos with your friends who are preparing for the digital SAT. It would be super, super helpful to me. So if you are gaining value from this content, please go ahead and share this with your friends. All right, here's question 6. If y is equal to 5x plus 10, what is the value of y when x is equal to 8? Well, all we got to do then is plug in 8 for x. We got 5 times 8 plus 10. 5 times 8 is going to be 40 plus 10 is going to get us that 50. So the value of y will be 50. Moving on to question number 7 now. Bar graph shows the distribution of 419 cans collected by 10 different groups for a food drive. How many cans were collected by group 6? Well, we've got number of cans on the y-axis. We've got our group 6 right here. We can go ahead and take a look at this bar graph. We go ahead and go over to our y-axis. That's a not straight line, so let me try to draw that a little bit straighter. Okay, if we go over to that y-axis, okay, we see that that's 40. Okay, so the answer there would be 40 is the number of cans collected by group 6. That's 40. Okay, moving on to number 8. Looks like number 8 is going to be on the other side of the screen, so let me go ahead and switch it over. Okay, if you notice that it takes me a little bit of time to get between some of these questions, it's because I have to switch the side that I'm screen recording. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at question 8. We've got the table gives the distribution of votes for a new school mascot in grade level for 80 students. If one of these students is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a student whose vote for the new mascot was for a lion? So key thing here is understanding what pool are you selecting from. In this case, it's at random, so that's just going to be the total pool. So that'll be our denominator will be 80. Okay, our numerator is those who vote for a new mascot that is a lion. And this is across all grades. So that would be 20 over 80. That's going to simplify down to 1 over 4, which I see will be answer choice C. Okay, moving on to our next question. Okay, and once again, I do ask that if you are gaining value from this content, please go ahead and share it. So if you could go ahead and post it to your Snapchat story or Instagram story, I would really, really appreciate it. With that being said, let's go ahead and go over question number 9. And I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see all the answer choices here. All right, so we got the graph represents the total charge in dollars by an electrician for X hours of work. The electrician charges a one-time fee plus an hourly rate. What is the best interpretation of the slope? Well, his one-time fee is represented by this y-intercept, and then the slope is the hourly charge. Okay, so if we look at our options, we have option A, the electrician's hourly rate. That is correct. That is what's represented by that slope. That's the variable cost that is dependent on the number of hours that the electrician works. Okay, here's question number 10. We have square x is a side length of 12 centimeters. The perimeter of square y is 2 times the perimeter of square x. What is the length in centimeters of one side of square y? Well, we know our equation for perimeter of a square is p is equal to 4 times s, where s is our side lengths. Now, if our perimeter is doubling, well, the 4 sides remains the same. What must change then is the side length. So the side length will have to double. Okay, so if we are doubling our side length from square x to square y, we have to take square x's side length of 12, multiply it by 2, and that gets us 24 for the side length of square y. Okay, moving on to question number 11 now. Okay, and one thing that is helpful for me is if you drop a comment telling me when you are planning to take the digital SAT and what your goal score is. It's helpful for me to know just so that I can make sure I cater the content to my viewers. All right, here's question 11. What is the equation of the line that passes through the point 05 and is parallel to the graph y equals 7x plus 4 in the xy plane? Okay, well, if we have a parallel line, that means we have the same slope, so our slope must be 7x, so therefore we can get rid of a and we can get rid of d. The next thing that we know is that we pass through the point 05. That means our y-intercept is 5 because that's where x is 0. Okay, so if our y-intercept is 5, that means our equation must be y equals 7x for our slope plus that 5 for our y-intercept. Moving on to question 12. In the linear function h of 0 is 41. So that means our y-intercept is going to be 41, and h of 1 is 40. Which equation defines h? Okay, so we know we have a y-intercept of 41, so we can get rid of b, and we can get rid of c as well. Now, we also know that we have a slope, okay, because we're going from 0 to 1 on our x, and then we are going down by 1. So our slope must be negative 1 over, that should be just a negative 1. That should have been over 1, not an x. Okay, it's negative 1 over 1x would be that slope. Okay, so if you look at our options here, we've got negative x for our slope plus 41 for our y-intercept. So our answer there would be A. Okay, moving on to question number 13 now. Go ahead and switch sides of this screen recording so you can see it. Okay, there's question 13. Function f of t is equal to 60,000 times 2 to the power of t over 410. If you don't know, this is the exponential growth formula. This right here, the 60,000 is the initial value. This 2 is what your growth factor is. And then you have this t over 410, which is telling you how often you're doing this doubling. And we know it's doubling because we have 2 for that growth factor. So this gives the number of bacteria in the population t minutes after an initial observation. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double? Well, it's going to double every time that we get the next whole integer in this value for the exponent. And we see that that's going to happen every time we increase by 410. So we're going to double every 410 days. As you can see, if you had 410 for t, you'd have 410 over 410, which would be an exponent of 1. So it'd be 60,000 times 2, and thus you'd double. Okay, so every 410 days is how often it will double. All right, moving on to question number 14. Okay, we've got function f is defined by, and let me actually zoom in a little bit, see if you guys can see that a little bit better. Sweet. Function f is defined by x minus 6, x minus 2, x plus 6 in the xy plane. Graph of y equals g of x is the result of translating the graph of y equals f of x up 4 units. Anytime on the SAT you see the word translating or moving something up, down, left, right, pay really close attention to it, because if you don't, you're probably going to get it wrong. In this case, we are translating the graph of y equals f of x up 4 units, and that gets us y of g of x. What is the value of g of 0? So not f of 0, but g of 0. And keep in mind, g of 0 is g of x, which is f of x up 4 units. So if we were to write g of x, which I will do just to kind of show you what this translation looks like, that's just going to equal f of x, which I'll put down here just for reference for you. Okay, and then we have to move it up by 4 units. All we're doing then is adding 4. So that's what g of x would look like. Now we're asked for the value of g of 0. Okay, so g of 0, we just put in 0 for x. So 0 minus 6 will give us negative 6. 0 minus 2 will give us negative 2. And And then we'll have 0 plus 6, which will give us positive 6. And then we'll have to add 4 on top of this. So negative 6 times negative 2 will give us positive 12. Positive 12 times 6 will give us positive 72. 72 plus 4 will give us positive 76 as the value for g of 0. Key thing here is understanding how to do this translation. Okay, you're just going up 4 units. So you have to make sure that you understand how to get from f of x to g of x by applying that translation of up 4 units. Moving on to question number 15, we have a candle is made of 17 ounces of wax. When a candle is burning, the amount of wax in the candle decreases by 1 ounce every 4 hours. Okay, if 6 ounces of wax remain in the candle, how many hours has it been burning? All right, so let's write this out as an equation that shows us how much wax is remaining. So I'll write that f of x is equal to wax remaining. Wax remaining, okay. Now we've got 6 ounces of wax remain in the candle. So we know that we initially have 17 ounces of wax when time is at 0. We also know that we are decreasing 1 ounce every 4 hours. We start with 17 ounces. We lose 1 ounce every 4 hours. So the way that we would represent that is minus 1 over 4 times our number of hours. Okay, because if we were to convert this decreasing 1 ounce every 4 hours into how much we're losing every hour, it would be 1 over 4. Okay, so from here we want to know for how many hours has it been burning if 6 ounces of wax remain in this candle. Okay, so let's go ahead and start solving this. To do that, I'll start by subtracting 17 from both sides. That will give me a negative 11 is equal to negative 1 over 4h. From here, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by negative 4 in order to get this positive h value. So I'll multiply both sides by negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 11 will give us positive 44 is going to equal the value of h. So our answer there would be that it has been burning for 44 hours. So our answer there would be D. Moving on to question number 16. And now's a great time to go ahead and drop a comment and let me know what your goal score is and when your test date is. Okay, it's helpful for me to know so I know how to prepare this content to best serve you. All right, moving on to question number 16. Got the given equation, relates the numbers j, k, and m, which equation correctly expresses k in terms of j and m. All right, all we got to do here is rearrange these variables in order to get the value of k. So in this case, we'll go ahead and subtract 14j from each side, and that will end up leaving us with 5k is equal to m minus 14j. Now from there, we'll go ahead and divide both sides by 5, and we'll get that k is equal to m minus 14j all over 5. We see that that'll be answer choice A, so A will be our correct answer for number 16. We'll go ahead and move to number 17 now. Triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL, where angle F corresponds to angle J and angle G, hang on, let me reread that. Triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL, where angle F corresponds to angle J, and angles G and K are right angles. Okay, so what we see here, G and K, they have the same angle measure. F, J have the same angle measure. Therefore, H and L have the same angle measure, and these are similar triangles. If sine of F is equal to 308 over 317, what is the value of sine of J? Well, we know that angle F, corresponds to angle J. And since these are similar triangles, it means they're going to have the same angle measure. Therefore, the sine values are going to be the same for F and J. Therefore, the sine of J will also be 308 over 317. Okay, from here, let's go ahead and move on to our next question. That question was 17, so we are on 18 now. So I'll go ahead and switch the side of my screen one more time. Okay, and then I'll have to scroll over a little bit. Okay, there we go. 18 right there. Product of two positive numbers is 546. If the first integer is 11 greater than twice the second integer, what is the smaller of the two integers? Okay, so we need to solve for the smaller one. So I'm going to use S for smaller, and I'm going to use G for greater. Or trying to think of which variables to use. Yeah, we'll use S and G. Okay, so product of two of them, of the two positive integers, is 546. We know 546 is going to equal G times S, so our greater times our smaller. We know that the first integer is the greater one, so we'll go ahead and put that as greater, and it's 11 greater than twice the second integer, which is the smaller one, so 11 plus 2s. We need to solve for s, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and plug in this G value, so we'll have 11 plus 2s getting plugged in there, so we'll have 546 is going to equal 11 plus 2s multiplied by s. We distribute this s to that 2s and also to that 11. And that's going to end up giving us 11s plus 2s squared. From here, we want to set this all equal to 0. So we're going to have 0 is going to equal 2s squared plus 11s plus 546. Now from here, it's a little bit difficult to factor this, or at least it looks like it might be. So what I would actually do here is I would go ahead and use Desmos. In situations where you find that it might be time consuming or maybe difficult or a high likelihood of error by factoring, go ahead and use Desmos. There's really no shame in it. It's a tool that is available for your use on the digital SATs. So I highly recommend that you do make use of it in situations where it makes sense to, like in this case. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put in 2x squared. And then we have plus 11x, and keep in mind, I just put in x instead of s, which is not a big deal, as long as you know what you're doing with Desmos, basically. So here you got 2x squared plus 11x plus 546. And what we're going to do here is look for where it equals 0. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's registering. Let me see if I put it in wrong at all. Oh, I see. I'm just going to have to zoom out. Okay, what is the smaller of the two? Okay, oh, I see. I have plus 546 instead of minus. That's my bad. It should be minus 546 because we subtracted 546 from both sides. Other than that, it looks right. So let me go ahead and change my Desmos equation to reflect that it should be minus 546, minus 546. Okay, there we go. So now we have these zeros. So we go in here and we are looking for what is the smaller of the two integers. So this is ultimately going to give us two possible values for s. Now keep in mind that the value of s must be positive, okay, because it's the product of two positive integers is 546. So we need the positive value of s. So if we take a look here, we have the positive value of s is 14. Okay, so our answer there would be 14. And if we want to just quickly check this, we can, which I will do just because I saw that I had that plus 546 when it should have been minus 546. So just because I had that minor error that I caught, I just want to make sure I have everything else right. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have our s value as 14. So we got 546 divided by 14. This will give us the value of g. So g then would be 39 and s would be 14. Okay, we see that those would multiply together to get that 546. We can also check that g is equal to 11 plus 2s. So 2 times 14 would give us 28. 28 plus 11 is 39 to equal g. So that all checks out. So we've got our answer for number 18, and we can go ahead and move on. So I'll go ahead and hide Desmos now, and we'll keep on rolling. So we've got now number 19, which point xy is a solution to the given system of inequalities in the xy plane. All right, so here we pretty much just have to use substitution and check a through d. So let's go ahead and do that. You can do that pretty quickly. It shouldn't take too long. So let's go ahead and plug in that 0 for y. So 0 and 0. Then we'll plug in negative 14 for x. Okay, negative 14 plus 7 is going to equal a negative 7. Is negative 7 greater than or equal to 0? It is not. So A is incorrect. If I look at B, go ahead and erase all this again. Now we've got 0 for the value of x. We can go ahead and put in 0 for the value of x. And then we have negative 14 for the value of y. Is negative 14 less than or equal to 7? Yes, it is. Is negative 14 greater than or equal to negative 1? It is not, so that B is incorrect as well. Now we're going to take a look at option C. We plug in 0 for x, and then y is 14. Is 14 less than or equal to 7? It is not, so that's wrong. D has to be our correct answer. We can quick double check that. So we plug in 14 for the value of x. 14 plus 7 is 21. Y is 0. 0 is less than or equal to 21. That's true, so we'll put that as T. Next thing we're going to have is a 14 for the value of x. So negative 2 times 14, that'll give us negative 28 minus 1, which is negative 29. Is negative 29 less than or equal to 0? It is. That's also true. So that confirms that D is our answer. We go ahead and move on to question 20. What is the smallest solution to the given equation? Let's go ahead and start by squaring both sides to try to get our x from out from underneath these square roots. Once we square both sides, that's going to end up leaving us with x minus 2. Actually, I guess... yeah, we do have to square both sides. So we'll end up x minus 2 squared is going to equal 3x plus 34. Okay, from here, let's go ahead and expand this out, and then we'll try to set it equal to 0. X squared, this will be minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 3x plus 34. From here, we're going to set this all equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. That'll get us x squared minus 7x. And then we got to subtract 34 from both sides. That'll give us a minus 30 over here. From here, let's go ahead and factor this out. I'm looking for things that multiply to get me negative 30 that have a sum of negative 7. 3 and 10 would fit that mold. So we'd have x minus 10. So we get this minus 7x. Then we'd have an x plus 3. Okay, from here, we've gone ahead and factored this. We need the smallest solution. Okay, always pay attention to words like smallest, positive, negative, integer, constant, things like that. But very much smallest, largest, and positive and negative. Those are really the four ones that you really, really need to pay attention to. The other ones you should too, but those are ones you really want to look for. Anyways, we need the smallest solutions. We see our two solutions here are x equals 10 and x equals negative 3. The smaller of the two is x equals negative 3. So negative 3 is our answer. That being said, we can go ahead and move on to our next question, which I believe is question number 21. So if you're not subscribed yet, please take a moment and go ahead and subscribe so that you can continue improving on the digital SAT. All right, so here we've got question number 21. Regular price of a shirt at a store is $11.70. We'll go write that as 11.7. Sale price of the shirt, I'll represent that as S for sale price of the shirt, is 80% less than the regular price. Okay, so it's 80% less than our regular price. We know 11.7 is our regular price, which I'll just call R. Okay, it's 80% less than that, so we can represent that sale price as 0.2 times our regular price of 11.7. Next thing we have is, and the sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. So we also know then that the sale price is 30% greater than store's cost. Okay, so sale price is also equal to the store's cost, which we'll call C, times 1.3, since it's 30% greater than the store's cost. Now we're asked, what was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? Okay, we can kind of go ahead and erase this. So here we've got the sale price. Let's go ahead and calculate that. Then we can plug it in and solve for C. So 0.2 times 11.7. Put that in the calculator, we'll get 2.34. 2.34 right there. All right, down here we've got to solve for C. So to solve for C, we'll get that C is equal to our sale price divided by 1.3 when we divide both sides by 1.3. Now we know our sale price is 2.34, so we can write that this is equal to 2.34 divided by 1.3. So we'll go ahead and put that in our calculator, and that'll give us a value of 1.8. So that's going to equal out to 1.8. Okay, so our value for the store's cost here is 1.8. All right, moving on from here, we've got question number 22. Sample oak has a density of 807 kilograms per cubic meter. Go ahead and write that out as 807 kg per cubic meter. Write that as meters cubed. Okay, it's helpful to use units because it'll help you to check your work and also make sure you have the correct initial setup by making sure that you have consistent units in your equation, which I'll show you as we go through this. The sample is in the shape of a cube where each edge has a length of 0.9 meters. To the nearest whole number, what is the mass in kilograms of the sample? Okay, so we need to solve for mass. We know that density is equal to mass over volume. We know our volume is going to be 0.9 cubed, and the way we know that is because it's a cube. Okay, so all side lengths are the same. So to calculate the volume, you do length times width times height, which are all the same. So it's just 0.9 cubed is our volume. Now we need to ultimately solve for our mass here in kilograms. As we can see, we have kilograms per meters cubed already in our volume, so that's good. We also know that that's 0.9 meters, which is good because we're dealing with consistent units. So we don't have to deal with any conversions of units on this, so that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. We know D is equal to M over V. We know our D is equal to 807 kg over M cubed. We know that our mass is what we're trying to solve for. We know that our volume is 0.9 cubed. And I can just quick show you that our mass is in kilograms and our volume is in meters cubed. So as you can see, we have the correct setup because we have the same units on both sides. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and erase these units now. Actually, I should keep them in. Let me just keep them in. Okay, you should probably keep them in as well, unless they just really annoy you. But let's just go ahead and keep going. Okay, from here, we're just going to solve for M. So we're going to multiply both sides by 0.9 cubed. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to end up with 807 kilograms per meter cubed, and then multiply that by 0.9 raised to the third power meters cubed. As you can see, our meters cubed are going to cancel. We'll be left with the number of kilograms, which as you can see will equal our mass in kilograms. So that's a good check on our work. Okay, from there, let's go ahead and put this in our calculator and get our answer. So it's going to be 807 times 0.9 cubed. And that will give us our answer of 588. Okay, so 588 is equal to our mass in kilograms. As you saw, our units checked. That's a great way to check your work on the SAT math section. All right, so we got our answer A. Let's go ahead and keep moving on to question number 23 now. For x is positive, and the way I read anytime it says x is greater than 0 or x is less than 0 is just positive and negative. I find it's much easier to think about that way. So that's just a tip that I have for you there. The function f is defined as follows. F of x equals 201% of x. One thing you want to pay attention to when it comes to percents on the SAT is whether or not it's 200%, any sort of percent of x, or, some percent greater than the value of x or something like that, or greater than the previous value of x, because those are two different things. If it's f of x equals 201% of x, this is actually going to be a linear function, which I'll talk about in a second. If it was f of x is equal to 200% greater than whatever the previous value of x was, then it would actually be an increasing exponential function. So I'll quickly actually explain that here a little bit more depth, because I do want you to understand it, because I think it's very important. So which of the following could describe this function? Well, if we're equaling 201% of x, we are actually going to increase linearly. And I'll show you how you can kind of do a quick check on if it's something is linear or exponential with percents, in case you're ever not sure. I'll call this x. I'll call this my y. I don't know why I just wrote a second x, but this will be y. All right, so we'll just do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we'll just make a little table, use 3 values. We'll start out with a value of, say at 1 we'll do 2, okay? If we're doing f of x equals 201% of x, we could actually write that as f of x is equal to 2.01x, which, as you can see, is a linear function. But if you weren't sure how to write that linear function and you just wanted to make a table to help you, you can see that if we're equaling 201% of x, well, then if x is, I guess let me rewrite this table. Okay, let's just rewrite this table out. Okay, so at 1, we'd have a value of 2.01. Okay, 2.01. I know that that's writing is a little bit small, but 2.01. Now at 2, we'd have a value of 4.02, and at 3, you'd have a value of 6.03. Okay, now from here, you can see that we're obviously increasing by 2.01 at each step, and therefore it's going to be a linear function. Okay, so we know that it's going to be increasing linear. Okay, now if it's exponential, the way that would be worded would be something like this. Okay, the wording, if it was increasing exponential, and I'm going to erase this so you don't get confused now. Okay, if it was increasing exponential, it would be written something like f of x equals 200% greater than the value of the previous, or then its previous value. Then the function's, yeah, pretty much like then the function's previous value greater than, or I guess probably a better way that they would write it would be for every increase of 1 in x, f of x is 200% greater than the previous value. It'd be something like that. Okay, because if f of x is 200% greater than the previous value, then it is exponential because it's dependent on whatever the previous value is. As you can see here, it's only dependent on x, but it's not actually dependent on the previous value. Okay, because if we're 200% greater than whatever we were before, then that's a growth factor, right? So there's sort of the difference between increasing exponential and increasing linear. Okay, it has to do with the fact that we're 200% greater than whatever we were before versus being just 201% of x. Okay, so that's increasing linear. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to question number 24. All right, so here's question number 24. Let me just go ahead and scroll over. Let me zoom out. Zoom out one more time. All right, so I'll kind of scroll through the answers so you can see them. Okay, I can't quite fit everything on the screen, but that's okay. We've got the rational function f is defined by an equation in the form f of x equals a over x plus b, where a and b are constants. Partial graph of y equals f of x is shown. If g of x is equal to f of x plus 4, which equation could define function g? Okay, this is a transformations question. Ultimately, we are shifting g of x is going to equal f of x, but shifted to the left by 4 units. And the reason we know it's shifted to the left by 4 units is because we have x plus 4. If it was x minus 4, then it'd be shifted right 4. If it was x minus 4, but it's x plus 4, which means that we are shifting to the left by 4 units. So the way that I think about this question is I would pick a point that's really easy to calculate. So -1 would be that value for me, in my opinion. And I'm using the y value that I think is easy to calculate. So -1, obviously, if you get a number over a number, have a negative sign in the numerator denominator, it's easy to get to. So this is the point that I'm going to look at for a translation question like this, translation, transformation, whatever. It's going to be -10 and -1. Now I know we're moving left 4, so I know my new point then is going to have to be somewhere over here, and that's going to have to be at -14 and -1. And now from here, I'm really just going to check A through D and find where exactly we are landing, okay, or where exactly that -14, -1 work. So, because that's a point that I know has to exist. So since I know that point has to exist, let's go ahead and check option A. So x would be -14. Well, 6 over -14 is not equal to -1, so I know that's wrong. If I look at B, I would have a value of -14 plus 4. Okay, well, that's 6 over -10. I know that that doesn't equal -1, so that's wrong. Option C, I got 6 over -14 plus 8. -14 plus 8 would give us a -6. That'd be 6 over -6, which is equal to -1. So I know that C would be my right answer there. And if I go ahead and check on D as well, D, we've got this x plus 4 and this x plus 4 would end up canceling out. So that would ultimately just be g of x equals 6. That can't be correct either. So our answer there's got to be C. Go ahead and move on to question number 25 now. So in this meantime, if you have not liked the video yet, please go ahead and like the video. If you're gaining value from my content, please also consider sending a super thanks. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started on question number 25. Which expression is equivalent to, and then we got this division question. Anytime that we are adding or subtracting fractions like this, we need to have a common denominator. So let's go ahead and work on getting a common denominator. I've got x minus 8 here, which means I'm probably looking to factor out an x minus 8 and this right here. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, we can go x minus 8, and then we have a x squared value. So we're gonna have to multiply it by an x. Okay, we also have a y value. So we're gonna have to multiply it by a y as well. And that will get us our x squared y when we multiply this xy by this x. Now we also need to have minus 8xy, which we will get as well when we multiply that -8 by this xy. Okay, so now we've factored this out. From here, let's go ahead and rewrite this. So right now we have y plus 12 over x minus 8. Okay, now we have to multiply this by xy in order to get this common denominator. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we got xy here. Multiply that by this y and by this 12. That's going to end up giving us y squared x plus 12xy. And then we also have up here a y times x, so plus another xy, so plus another xy. And then we also have a minus 8y, minus 8y. And then this is all going to be over top of that x squared y minus 8xy. From here, we can go and combine like terms. So here and here, we see this will turn into a 13xy because we have 12xy plus xy. So now if we're going to simplify this down, we're going to end up with a y squared plus 13xy and then minus an 8y. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at, or I guess that's y squared x, y squared x, y squared x. Okay, so y squared x plus 13xy plus or minus 8y. And that's, keep in mind, still all over top of that x squared minus, or x squared y minus 8xy. All right, so from here, let's go ahead and run through our options. Option A, incorrect. B would be incorrect. C, we have xy squared, which is the same as y squared x, plus 13xy, yes, and then minus 8y. So that numerator is true. Let's take a look at if the denominator matches. X squared y, minus 8xy, minus 8xy. Okay, so yes. question C is correct, okay? Or I'm sorry, answer choice C is correct. That is an equivalent expression to what we have written here. So the key thing is if you have fractions like this, you need to get a common denominator. Once you get a common denominator, you need to simplify as best you can. And then from there, find the expression that is equivalent, which we did here. So let's go ahead and move on to 26 now. In the meantime, if you have not turned on notifications for my videos, please do so. That way you are alerted when I have new videos to help you prepare for the digital SAT. Here we have question number 26. The table shows the results of a poll. A total of 803 voters selected at random were asked which candidate they would vote for in the upcoming election. According to the poll, if 6,424 people vote in the election, by how many votes? Okay, by how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win? So it's not how many votes would Angel Cruz get. It's not how many votes would Terry Smith get. It's by how many votes would Angel Cruz get more than Terry Smith. So this is based on a initial poll. So the difference between these two in the initial poll is 483 minus 320. And then that's divided by a total of, or hang on, yes, we got 803 total voters. Okay, so we'll divide that by 803. And that's going to give us the expected difference, right? The expected difference written as a decimal, from which we can multiply by the total number of voters in the election of 6,424. Okay, so this will ultimately get us our answer. So let's go ahead and put this in the calculator and let's see what that gets us. So that's 483 minus 320 all over 803. That's 0.20, about 0.203. But we'll go ahead and multiply that by 6,424, and that'll give us 1304. So that's going to equal out to 1304. So that'll be answer choice B. Key thing here is to make sure you recognize that we need the difference. It's by how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win. So one of the biggest tips that I can give you for the SAT math section is to pay extremely close attention to what you're asked to answer with, because if you don't, you're going to miss a ton of points. So it's really just a small thing to do, but it can make a massive difference in your score on the SAT math section. So always make sure you're paying close attention to what you're asked to answer with. And that being said, let's go move on to 27. The graph of x squared plus x plus y squared plus y equals 199 over 2 in the xy plane is a circle. What is the length of the circle's radius? There's a couple ways that you could approach this. I will show you two of them. One of them I think is much easier and one that you're less likely to make a mistake than the other. So I'm going to show you this one first, and that is using Desmos, baby. Desmos is your friend on the digital SAT as long as you use it when it makes sense to, when it's actually going to save you time to versus doing it by hand, or when it's actually going to reduce the chance of you making an error. And this is a prime question of when you should use Desmos. So as you can see, we still got our equation from earlier in this section on here. We'll just go ahead and X that out for now. And let's go ahead and put in the equation that they gave us. So once I have this equation written down, I'll go ahead and talk to you about why I think this is a prime question for Desmos in particular compared to some other questions on the SAT. And I'll try to give you a little bit of guidance on when I think it does really make sense to use Desmos. So first of all, let me just get this written down. Okay, so as you can see, we've got our circle now. Okay, we've got x squared plus y squared plus y equals 199 over 2. Always make sure that what you have in Desmos is the same as what you are supposed to put in, because otherwise, obviously, you don't want to make a mistake just because you accidentally put in a typo on Desmos. That being said, we have it written down. So we are looking to solve for the length of the circle's radius. So I'll go ahead and zoom in on the circle. What I'm looking for now is basically just 2 points that are, at the same x coordinate or the same y coordinate, and then I'll just find the difference so I can find the diameter and then find the radius. So I see right here, I've got negative 0.5 and 9.5. So if I go down to negative 0.5, I've got negative 10.5. So that'd be 10.5 plus 9.5. That gets me 20 as the diameter. Okay, so I can write that D is equal to 20. Therefore, our radius must equal 10, and our answer there will be 10. Okay, so that's the way that I recommend solving this question. I think it's far easier than the alternative of doing it by hand, which I'll show you how to do in a second. But as you can see, the chances of you making a mistake using Desmos on this question are extremely low. And I will also point out that this is question 27 on the digital SAT practice test, which means it's the last question. And that means it's generally going to be one of the more difficult questions on that section. So I will point out that we got one of the more difficult questions. We were able to use Desmos, and it basically just became adding 9.5 and 10.5 and then dividing by 2. As you can see, I think that that's a massive win in terms of avoiding the potential for a mistake, because now I'll show you how you could solve this by hand. And as you're going to see, it's much more likely that you make an error when doing this one by hand versus using Desmos. And that's basically sort of the guideline that I recommend. If using Desmos makes it so you're less likely to make a mistake, then use Desmos. If using Desmos is going to save you time, use Desmos. So those are kind of the two things that I would point out as being times when you should use Desmos. And I think this satisfies both of those. I think it's way faster to use Desmos on this one, and I think it's way less likely you make a mistake using Desmos on this one. So this is really a question that's perfect for using Desmos. But I will quickly show you how you can solve this one by hand, just in case you're someone who doesn't want to use Desmos for some reason, but let's go ahead and do that. So we've got x squared plus x plus y squared plus y is equal to 199 over 2, and the xy plane is a circle. What's the length of the circle's radius? We want to solve for radius. In order to solve for radius, I want to get this into the form of a circle. So to do that, we know that the form of the circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, where h and k is our center, and then that's going to equal our radius squared. Well, what I need to do here is I need to get into this form again. So to do that, I know that x squared plus x, the only way I can get that is by having x plus 1/2, right? Because x plus 1/2 squared is what would get me that plus x value. Okay, so from here, I also know that it's kind of the same. It is the same thing with y, right? I need to have y plus 1/2 squared as well in order to get that plus y value, and that's all going to equal r squared. Now, obviously, I just changed how this is written. And so because I changed how it's written, and let me actually go ahead and write this out as a 199 over 2. Okay. This, if I expand it out, is going to be x squared plus, actually, let me just leave this as r squared for now. Okay, that would turn out to be x squared plus x, and then that would also be a plus 1/4. Okay, and then over here for our y, we'd also have that plus y squared plus y plus 1/4. So we would also need to add 1/4 to this 199 over 2 as well. And the reason why is because keep in mind, this is equal to our radius squared, right? Well, when we have x squared plus x plus y squared plus y is equal to 199 over 2, you can see that we've taken away this 1/4 and this 1/4. Okay, and since we've taken it away, we need to add it to this right side. Okay, so we got to add that over to our right side. So adding 1/4 and adding 1/4 is the same as adding 1/2. And that'll give us that 200 over 2. Okay, so with that 200 over 2, we know that that's 100. So if 100 is equal to our radius squared, then that means our radius then would have to equal 10, because we take the square root of 100 and the square root of our radius. Okay, so hopefully that right there makes sense. If you have questions on this, I understand, but as you can see, this is much more complex than just using Desmos. So this is why I would recommend that you just use Desmos. Okay, far less complex, far less time as well, in my opinion. And you're just so much less likely to make mistakes. So this is a prime example of a question where you really, really, really should be using Desmos. It just does not make sense to do it by hand at all whatsoever. The odds of you making a mistake throughout all of this work is just way higher than if you just use Desmos. So anyways, that's my little rant on Desmos, and let's go ahead and go on to section 2 now. So moving on to section 2, let's go ahead and move down there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start on section 2 now. So we got question number 1 coming up right here. There we go. Okay. Question 1, Isabel grows potatoes in her garden. This year she harvested 760 potatoes and saved 10% of them to plant next year. How many of the harvest potatoes did Isabel save to plant next year? She has 760. She's saving 10% of them. 760 times 0.1 is 76. So our answer there is B. Moving on to question number 2. What is the y-intercept of the graph shown? We see our y-intercept is going to be where x is 0. We see that that's going to be at 0, 2. 0, 2 is going to be answer choice B. Moving on to question number 3. Okay, question number 3, we've got what length in centimeters is equivalent to a length of 51 meters? Okay, well, we can go ahead and use unit conversion. So we have 51 meters. We need to convert it to centimeters. So we'll multiply by 100 centimeters per 1 meter. Our meters will cancel. We'll be left with centimeters. We can put that in our calculator. 51 times 100, that's going to give us 5,100. So our answer there will be C. We can go ahead and move on to question number 4 now. A bus is traveling at a constant speed along a straight portion of a road. The equation d equals 30t gives the distance d in feet from a road marker that the bus will be t seconds after passing the marker. How many feet from the marker will the bus be 2 seconds after passing the marker? Okay, that's pretty simple. We're just plugging in 2 for the value of t. 30 times 2 is going to equal 60. Our answer there will be 60, which is answer choice C. Moving on to question number 5. Which expression is equivalent to 20w minus 4w plus 3w? 4w plus 3w is 7w. 20w minus 7w is going to leave us with 13w. So our answer there would be answer choice B. Moving on to question number 6. Question number 6. There we go. Okay, if 6 plus x is equal to 9, what is the value of 18 plus 3x? Immediately, I see that if I triple 6 plus x, then I'm going to get that 18 plus 3x. So I'm multiplying by 3. 9 times 3 is going to give us 27. So our answer there would be 27 for the value of 18 plus 3x. Moving on to question number 7 now. The given equation relates the variable. Let me zoom in a little bit. All right, we got given equation relates variables x and y. For what value of x does the value of y reach its minimum? Okay, here's a little lesson for you. If you have something that is in the format of y equals, and then something with a coefficient, x squared, I guess I could write it like this, y equals a x squared plus or minus, b something, bx, and then, plus or minus, some sort of constant, right? Ultimately, your value then is going to be the value of x where your y reaches its minimum or its maximum, or in other words, the x coordinate of vertex. So I'll write that as x coord of vertex is going to be negative b over 2a. Okay, so negative b in this case would be negative 14. So negative 14, which we know is going to give us positive 14. And that's all over 2 times a. In this case, our a value is just 1. So as you can see, we end up with 14 over 2. So our answer there will be 7. Okay, so this is a shortcut you can use to get the x coordinate of your vertex. Okay, we want the x value where y reaches its minimum, which would be the x coordinate of the vertex. Obviously, this is opening up. Okay, so you are going to have a minimum and not a maximum value. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and move on to number 8. Which expression is equivalent to 9x squared plus 5x? Okay, it looks like we're doing some factoring. Let's go ahead and factor out x from each of these. We have x times 9x, x times 9x plus 5. We've got option A, x times 9x plus 5. Yes, that would be our answer there. We can go and move on to question number 9 now. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch sides for my screen. All right, question number 9. Triangle ABC, the measure of angle B is 52. Let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Okay, triangle ABC, measure of angle B is 52, measure of angle C is 17. What is the measure of angle A? Well, we know that all of the angles in a triangle must sum up to 180. We have angle C is 17, we have angle B is 52. Therefore, angle A must be 180 minus 17 minus 52, which would leave us with 111. So our answer has got to be D. We can go ahead and move on to question number 10 now. Question number 10 gives us x is equal to 8, y is equal to x squared plus 8. The graph of the equations in the given system of equations intersect at the point xy in the xy plane. What is the value of y? So we need to solve for y. To do that, let's go ahead and substitute in for x. So we're going to have y is equal to 8 squared plus 8. 8 squared is going to give us 64. 64 plus 8 is going to give us 72. So our answer there is going to be answer choice D. We can go and move on to question 11. Okay, so we got question 11 now. Now is a great time to go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. That way you can stay up to date on the latest videos to help you prepare for the digital SAT. Also, if you have not yet, please comment the date you'll be taking the digital SAT and what your goal score is. That being said, let me go ahead and zoom out so you can see this question a little bit better. Okay, I'll scroll through the answer choices so you can see them as we go through this. Scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables x and y. Line of best fit is also shown. Which of the following equations best represents the line of best fit shown? First thing I'll take a look at is always to make sure that I've got 0 and 0 right here, which I do. From there, I'll take a look at my y-intercept for my line of best fit. I see it's right around 13.5 or so. I see I've got a negative slope. So if we look at our options, I can immediately eliminate C and D because they have the wrong y-intercept. In terms of slope, I know it's negative, so A's out, and my answer there's got to be B. 13.5 is y-intercept and then a negative slope. Moving on to our next question, which is question number 12. We've got the function f is defined by f of x is equal to 8 root x. For what value of x does f of x equal 48? We can go ahead and set this up as 48 is going to equal 8 root x. Divide both sides by 8. 48 over 8 will leave us with 6. 6 is equal to root x. We'll square both sides in order to get x out from underneath that square root, and that'll give us 36 is equal to the value of x. So our answer there would be C. We'll double check that we're answering with the value they want us to answer with, which is the value of x, which we are. So our answer there will be C, and we can go ahead and move on to question number 13. All right, from here, let me go ahead and switch sides for my screencast. Got question 13. A circle has center O, and points R and S lie on the circle. In triangle ORS, the measure of ROS is 88. What is the measure of RSO in degrees? Well, with triangles and with circles, I always recommend going ahead and drawing them out. In this case, we have both triangles and circles, so we're definitely going to draw it out. We've got center O, we've got points R and S lying on the circle. We got measure ROS is 88, so I'll go ahead and draw this as ROS. We know that this is 88 degrees right here. Okay, we're asked for what is the measure of angle RSO in triangle ORS. Okay, so RSO is going to be this angle right here. Now, I know that these two angles are going to be the same because these are both the radius of the circle, right? So they have to be the same. So we have an isosceles triangle. Therefore, we can do 180 because that's the total number of degrees in a triangle. We'll subtract the 88 degrees we already have right here at angle O. And then we have to divide by 2 since they're going to be two of the same angle at R and at S. And this will give us our value of angle RSO. So 180 minus 88 should leave us with 92. 92 over 2 will give us 46. So 46 would be our answer for the value or the measure of angle RSO in degrees. Always pay attention if it's in degrees or radians. In this case, it was degrees, so we're fine there. Question 14 now, what is the sum of the solutions to the given equation? Keep in mind, we want the sum of the solutions, so we need to find both of them. What I'll do here, I might end up using Desmos. We'll see. Let's go ahead and do x squared plus x minus 56 is equal to 4x squared, and then minus 28x. All right, from here, let's go ahead and get everything on one side. I always want to keep my coefficient in front of x squared positive just because that's kind of a thing I do because I usually find it makes it easier. So I'll subtract x squared. That'll leave me with 3x squared. I'll subtract x as well, minus 29x, and then I'll add 56. Okay, from here, I'm going to have this as 0. At this point, I'd go ahead and use Desmos. That looks pretty difficult to factor, so I will go ahead and use Desmos here. Let me go ahead and load it up. So we'll go ahead and show Desmos. Let me go ahead and scroll down so we can see what we're going to be writing down. All right, so let's go ahead and clear it from our last equation. Now we've got 3x squared minus 29x. Then we've got plus 56. Okay, sweet. So we've got this right here. We've got 7, and we've got 2.667. Okay, 2.667. I can rewrite that. 2.667 would be 8 over 3. So we've got 8 over 3 as one of our solutions. And our other one, I believe, was 7. I'll quick double check. Other one was 7. So I'm going to convert that into over 3 as well. I know 7 times 3 is 21, so plus 21 over 3. Some of these solutions then would be 29 over 3. Okay, so our answer there will be 29 over 3. Once again, this is a good example of when it's helpful to use Desmos is when you have something that's difficult to factor like this. Go ahead and use Desmos. Make your life easier. So yeah, there's our answer for number 14 and a good situation to use Desmos there. Here's question 15. Y is equal to 3x. Looks like I'm probably going to end up substituting in for y here. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What's the value of 5x? Okay, yep, I'll substitute in. We'll get 2x plus 2x plus 3x. That'll give us 5x. So we'll have 5x is equal to 12. Always pay attention to what you're asked to answer with. Okay, because if you don't, you're probably going to get it wrong. In this case, we're asked to answer the value of 5x, so our answer there would be 12. Okay, moving on to question number 16 now. Go down here. Let me go ahead and switch it to the other side of my screen so you can see the question. Okay, we've got a cube has an edge length of 41 inches. What is the volume in cubic inches of the cube? Okay, so we've got side length is 41 inches. We know that we need the volume of the cube. All sides in a cube are the same. Therefore, length times width times height will give us 41 cubed. Let's put that in the calculator. 41 cubed. That's going to give us 68921, which is going to be answer choice D. And moving on to question number 17. Okay, this mostly fits. I'll scroll down to D as we go through this. Given function P models the population of Lowell T years after a census, which of the following functions best models the population of Lowell M months after the census? So the key thing here is we're switching from years to months. Our initial value will remain the same, so I can get rid of A. Our growth factor will also remain the same, so I can get rid of B and C. The only thing that's going to be changing here is this T. Okay, we're switching from years to months, so it should turn into M over 12, which if we go down to answer choice D, we see that we'll have 90,000 times 1.06, the power of M over 12. Okay, only thing we're changing there is our unit of time, switching it from years to months. Okay, so that's 17. We have 18. Okay, 18's on the other side, so we're going to go over to 18 now. Okay, now's a great time to go ahead and share my channel on Snapchat. If you have not already, post it to your story. Okay, I would really, really appreciate it. I'm giving out this content for free, so would really, really appreciate if you could share with your friends so I can get more views and they can get better at the digital SAT. Okay, here's question number 18. Solution to the given system of equations is x, y. What's the value of y? In this case, I want to solve for the value of y. So if I can do that without having to solve for x, that would be great. If you ever have a stack for system of equations, what you'll usually look to do is either substitution or addition or subtraction. And sometimes you'll have to multiply the top or the bottom equation by some number in order to get what you want. And what you're trying to get ultimately is whatever value they tell you. So that's how you want to deal with stacked equations. That being said, here we're looking for the value of y. So what I'm going to look to do is get rid of x somehow. I see I have 6x and 2x, so I'll multiply this bottom one by 3, and then I'll subtract. So I'll also recognize you have to distribute whatever you multiply by to all of these terms. Okay, so we have 6x minus 6x. Our x's will then be gone. Then we'll have 7y minus 6y, which will leave us with 1y. Then we'll have 28 minus 30, which will leave us with negative 2, and the value of y will be negative 2. So our answer there is A, and we didn't even have to solve for x. So that's why you need to understand that tip for stacked equations. Extremely useful and will save you a ton of time. Here's question 19. The minimum value of x, okay, minimum value, always pay attention to minimums and maximums. Minimum value of x is 12 less, okay, so 12 less minus 12, than 6 times another number n, so 12 less than 6 times n. Which inequality shows the possible values of x? We know the minimum value of x is this. So x must be greater than or equal to that. So the minimum value of x is 12 less than 6 times another number n. Okay, this is ultimately going to be our answer. We have to find what matches this. We know x needs to be greater than, so we can go ahead and get rid of these two. X needs to be greater than or equal to 6n minus 12. We see that's answer choice B. So B will be our answer there. I'm going to move on to question number 20. We've got a data set. Am I cutting off any of this? Okay, okay, it looks like question 20 I am, but it doesn't look like I was in 19. Okay, so here's question number 20. There it is. Dataset A consists of the heights of 75 buildings and has a mean of 32 meters. Dataset B consists of heights of 50 buildings and has a mean of 62 meters. Dataset C consists of the heights of the 125 buildings from datasets A and B. Okay, so we're combining these datasets. What is the mean in meters? Okay, everything else was also in meters, so we're good on units. What is the mean in meters of dataset C? Okay, well, you can't just average the means. That's not how means work, because you have to keep in mind that we have 50 buildings in dataset A, but we have 75. I'm sorry, we have 75 buildings in dataset A, but only 50 buildings in dataset B. So you can't just like combine the means. It's not how it works. You have to find what the total is and then divide by the total number of buildings. So let's go ahead and start by calculating the total height. So we've got, to start, 75 buildings with a mean of 32. So 75 times 32. We have to add on to that our 50 buildings that have a mean of 62. That will give us our total height. Now we have to divide by our total number of buildings, which is 125. Now let's put this into our calculator to get the new mean of dataset C. 75 times 32 plus 50 times 62. It's going to give us 55,000. Divide that by 125. Okay, that's going to get us 44. Let me quick double check my work, because when you're dealing with a free response question and numbers that are kind of as big as this, you want to double check. So we got 75 buildings. Yep, mean of 32. So 75 times 32. Then we've got dataset B, 50 buildings and a mean of 62. Okay, so 50 times 62. Dataset C consists of the height of 125 buildings from datasets A and B. Okay, yep, that all checks out. What's the mean in meters of dataset C? You can also use a logic check of the fact that you have 75 buildings that have a mean of 32, so we're probably going to be closer to that 32 than we will be to that 62, which makes sense because we're at 44. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and move on to number 21. Okay, so let me go ahead and once again switch the side. Now would be a great time to go and post to your Instagram story, my channel. That would be awesome. If you could post me to your Instagram story, I would really, really appreciate it. Here's question number 21. The graph of 9x minus 10y is 19. It's translated down 4 units. Okay, so translations, whether it's down, up, left, right, always pay really close attention. What's the x coordinate of the x-intercept of the resulting graph? X-intercept's going to be where y is 0. So we'll go ahead and put in 0 for the value of y. That will leave us with 9x is equal to, oh, hang on a minute. Sorry, forgot about that translation. Like I said, we always want to pay attention to it. That's why I have it underlined. Okay, what's the x-coordinate of the x-intercept of the resulting graph? Well, if we are translating it down by 4 units, we've got a couple ways we can approach this. We could first get our new equation. The other option is, if we know we're translating it down by 4 units, then we could think about it like this. Okay, since we ultimately want to find the x-intercept of the resulting graph, we could just find where that y value is 4. And since we know we're going down by 4, that would be the new x-intercept. So that's the way I'd prefer to do it because I think it's faster. So let's do that. 9x minus 10. Okay, our y is going to be 4. Since we know we're translating it down 4 units, once we were to come up with a new equation, we can just put in 4 here. And then when we translate down 4 units, we'll still get to the same answer. So let's do that. So we got 9x minus 40 equals 19. I'll add 40 to both sides. That will give me 59. Once I add 40 to both sides, that can be 9x is 59. That means x is going to equal 59 over 9, which will be our answer there. So that's a little trick you can use. I'm going to quick show you the alternate way of solving this because I know not everyone's going to be comfortable with that sort of shortcut there. So let me quick show you the alternate way of doing this. That's a little bit more conventional. So we've got 9x minus 10y. Let me go ahead and just convert this into slope-intercept form. So 9x then will equal 19 plus 10y. I'm going to move that 10y over just so that we have a positive coefficient in front of y. From there, I would subtract 19 from both sides. That's going to equal 10y. From there, I divide both sides by 10. Okay, so that would be 9x now, or 9 over 10x minus 19 over 10. And now you got to keep in mind that we have to move this down by 4 units now. So now we got to go down 4 units. So I'll do minus 40 over 10. It's going to equal y. Now we got to keep in mind we're looking for our x-intercept, so that's where y is going to equal 0. Okay, so let me erase this up here. Okay, so this can simplify down to 9 over 10 x minus 59 over 10. It's got to equal 0. Okay, since that's where our x-intercept is. Then we can see that 9 over 10 x must equal 59 over 10 by adding 59 over 10 to each side. From there, we can multiply both sides by 10 over 9, and then this will become 1. Okay, so that will become 1. We multiply this side by 10 over 9. Our 10s are going to cancel here, and we end up with 59 over 9 as well. So those are 2 different ways you can solve that problem. I took sort of what I think is kind of a shortcut there, but if you're not comfortable with that, there's another way to solve it that is a little bit more conventional. Here's question number 22. We got 2 variables, x and y, are related such that for each increase of 1 in the value of x, the value of y increases by a factor of 4. So we're dealing with exponential growth with a growth factor of 4. When x is 0, so this is going to give us our initial value. When x is 0, y is 200. And which equation represents this relationship? Okay, let me get what my exponent is. I think I missed that. Are related such that for each increase of 1 in the value of x. Okay, so we're just raising to the power of x then. Okay, keep in mind that since we are increasing by a factor of 4 for every 1 increase in the value of x. That's how we get this growth factor 4. So we've got our equation now. We know our initial value isn't 4. Our initial value is 200. We also know that the x needs to be the exponent. So our answer has got to be D. We can go and move on to number 23 now. We've got an equation here. One solution to a given equation can be written as 1 plus root k, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? All right, this one's a little bit tricky. Let's go ahead and see how we want to approach this. We've got x squared minus 2x minus 9 is going to equal 0. We got to get, okay, I see. So we've got to get this to 1 plus root k. So what we need to do is we need to get this into something squared. So what I would look at here is this x squared minus 2x. I want to figure out how to get to that squared. I know I can do that by x minus 1, because if I square that, that would get me x squared minus 2x plus 1. Now keep in mind that if we're going to do this, okay, we have to keep everything the same. So x squared minus 2x plus 1. Now, if I want to substitute in, okay, so we got x squared minus 9 equals 0. So we got x squared. All right, so if we want to put this in here, we're going to have set that equal to, okay, so I guess okay, so I showed you how I got to this x minus 1 squared. I'm just trying to think about the best way to explain this. So once we get this, okay, we know that that's going to equal our x squared minus 2x plus 1. Now, ultimately, we have to insert this x minus 1 squared into this equation without altering what it's equal to. So to do that, let's go ahead and do x minus 1 squared. Okay, we have this minus 9, but we're going to end up subtracting 1 from it. Okay, and the reason why, okay, is because this right here, as you see, it gets this plus 1 over here. So we would have to subtract 1, another 1, to account for the fact that we're not including this plus 1 when we substitute in this x minus 1 squared. Okay, so we have to subtract that 1 out. Now, when we do that, we're going to end up with this x minus 1 squared minus 10. So now we have to set that all equal to 0. So we got x minus 1 squared minus 10 set equal to 0. Now we got to add 10 to both sides. So add 10 to both sides. Now we got x minus 1 squared. Okay, from here, we need to take the square root of each side. Okay, because I ultimately need to try to get this plus root k. And the way that we can get there is by having something like x plus or minus number squared. So take the roots. Now we got x minus 1 is going to equal plus or minus root 10. And the reason it's plus or minus root 10 is because when you're taking the square root of something, when you're taking the square root of x minus 1 squared, since it's getting squared, it can be positive or negative. So you have to account for that with that plus or minus root 10. Okay, so from here now, looks like we need to get to 1 plus root k. So to do that, we go x equals, we add 1 to each side, we get 1 plus root 10. You could also have minus root 10, but in this case you can't because you have to have that 1 plus root k. What is the value of k? Okay, so we see here the value of k then would have to be 10. So k would have to equal 10. So this is a pretty difficult SAT math problem. Let me see if there's actually a way to do this easier with Desmos, because obviously this is a lot of work and there's a decent chance of making mistakes. So let me try to think if this is a way, if there's a way you can finesse this with Desmos. And there, I think, there definitely is actually, because this is multiple choice. So because this is multiple choice, let's say you didn't know how to get to this, which is honestly like most people probably wouldn't be able to, just judging by like SAT test scores, right? You'd have to probably be in like the 95th percentile or higher to get this question right, is my guess. So I'll show you how you can finesse this with Desmos. So let's go ahead and put in our equation. Okay, so we've got x squared minus 2x and then minus 9. Okay, so we've got this equation here. Now we're told 1 plus root k is one of the solutions. What's the value of k? So we know this is going to have to be our positive solution, okay, because it's 1 plus root k. So 4.162, I'd take 4.162, I'd subtract 1, okay, because it's 1 plus root k. So then I have 4.162 minus 1, that's 3.162. I'm going to erase this work. Let me go ahead and erase this work so I can draw again. Okay, so we did that 4.162 minus 1. Now we've got 3.162 is equal to root k. So I'm going to draw. So now look where I'm drawing. Look where I'm drawing now. It's equal to root k. And you can just substitute in now. So now I just use a calculator. And I just go, okay, well, what's root 8? Root 8 is 2.8, so that's not right. And then I just go root 10. Okay, root 10 is 3.162. Okay, boom, it's root 10. So yeah, honestly, like a question like this, if it's multiple choice, use Desmos. If it's not multiple choice, I wanted to show you how you can get to the answer in case it was free response. That's why I did it handwritten first. But yeah, a question like this on the SAT, multiple choice, use Desmos. It's just gonna be way faster. Use Desmos and then plug and chug your answer choices. So now you know how to solve it if it's free response, but if it is multiple choice like this, just use Desmos, way faster. So yeah, that's kind of a general rule for complex questions on the SAT. It's usually going to be faster and less likely to make an error if you are using Desmos. But for those who are looking to score above like a 700 on the math section, it is good to know how to do this by hand in case it's a free response question. So I did want to show both of those methods. But yeah, Desmos is a great tool, and this is a great spot to use it in. Let me quick hide Desmos so you can kind of see what I wrote there. I just wrote 3.162 equals root k for anyone who's wondering. But yeah, obviously those are two different ways to get the answer. The way I would use on a multiple choice would be Desmos, but I did want to show you how to do it in case it is free response. Let's go and go to 24 now. Let me hide Desmos again. Okay, question 24. All right, so we've got two data plots, it looks like, data set A and data set B. Go ahead and get that centered. Okay, let me zoom out so you guys can see a little bit more. I'll scroll down in case you can't. Okay, there you go. Now you can see everything. All right, so We've got which of the following statements must be true? Data sets. Let me start from the beginning. The dot plots represent the distributions of values in data sets A and B. Data set A, data set B. Which of the following statements must be true? The median of data set A is equal to the median of data set B. Standard deviation of data set A is equal to standard deviation of data set B. All right, whenever you're dealing with two data sets, the first thing I'm going to look at is what is the shape of each of them. So in this case, the shapes look very similar. Let me see what the differences are. Okay, this and this and this. Okay, so the only difference is the values at 13. We have two more values at 13 in data set A. Okay, so only difference is the values at 13. We have 3 here and we only got 1 here. Which of the following must be true? Option 1, the median of data set A is equal to the median of data set B. We can quick check that. So our minimums, scratch all that out, scratch all that out. Okay, we see our median there is there. Same thing here, scratch that out, median's the same. Okay, so this is true, 1 is true, so we can get rid of 2 only. We can get rid of neither 1 or 2. Now we got standard deviation of data set A is equal to standard deviation of data set B. I know that's going to be false, and I'll quickly explain why. So standard deviation, if you take a look at these two, the standard deviation in data set A is going to be less than the standard deviation in data set B. And the reason why is because there are more values concentrated around the center, right? So since there's more values concentrated around the center, there's less deviation. If you look at data set B, there's more deviation, right? There's less numbers centered around the center. They're more widely distributed to sort of the minimums and maximums. So that would be a greater standard deviation. So we got true for 1, false for 2. So our answer there for which of the following must be true is A, 1 only. That being said, we go and move on to number 25. We got an isosceles triangle. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. You can see that a little bit better. There we go. Isosceles right triangle has a perimeter of 94 plus 94 root 2. What is the length in inches of one leg of the triangle? Keep in mind that each leg will be the same since an isosceles right triangle with triangles and circles, always draw it out. Okay, keep in mind an isosceles right triangle is a 45, 40, 95, 90 triangle, which means that your side lengths will look like this, x, x, and x root 2, where x is whatever the length of one of the sides is. That being said, we know that we have a perimeter of 94. So I'll go ahead and write this down. Perimeter is going to equal 94 plus 94 root 2. Okay, now from here, we need to solve for the length in inches of one leg of this triangle. Okay, well, we can go ahead and write this as our perimeter would also equal, we'll use x for the length, 2x, okay, because we have x plus x, and then plus x root 2. Okay, we can set that equal to that 94 plus 94 root 2, plus 94 root 2. All right, from here, let me see if I can get x isolated. So to isolate x, I'll go ahead and factor over here. To isolate x, that'd be 2 plus root 2, I believe. Yep, okay, that's the factor there. Now, to isolate x, I'm going to look to see if I can get the same factor over here, because then I can just divide it and it becomes really simple. So over here, let's see if we can get that same factor of 2 plus root 2. So to get 94, we'd have to have 47 times 2. That gets us at 94. Then to get this, though, would give us that 47 root 2, which we know we can't have. Now, if we were to add on root 2 here, we would get 47. I don't know why it does this. Have you guys noticed how it like changes the shape of my line sometimes? I don't know why that happens. Anyways, we'd get 47 root 2 times 2. That's going to give us this 94. And then here we'd have 47 root 2 times 2, and that would give us this 94 root 2. Okay, so there we go. Now we factored this. And we've got the same factor. So let's go ahead and divide both of them by this factor of 2 plus root 2. Okay, so now we've isolated x, divide by 2 plus root 2. So we've isolated x. Okay, now we have x is equal to 47 root 2, so our answer there would be B. So that is how you would solve this triangles question. This one's a little bit complicated, but it's really just a matter of factoring. The factoring on it is a little bit tough, but overall, not necessarily too bad. Okay, now we got question number 26. All right, so let me go ahead and shift everything back to the other side of the screen. All right, here is going to be question number 26. All right, so we've got, in the given equation, C is a constant. The equation has exactly one solution. What is the value of C? If it's got exactly one solution, then we know it's going to be set equal to 0. the value of b squared minus 4ac will be set equal to 0, that is. So let's go ahead and do that. So our b value is 30, so b squared is 30 squared minus 4 times a. A is negative 9 times c. That's going to have to equal 0 for there to be one solution. 30 squared is going to give us 900 minus 4 times negative 9. That'll give us a plus 36c equals 0. We'll go ahead and subtract 900 from both sides. 36c is equal to negative 900. Divide both sides by 36. C is going to equal negative 900 over 36. Put that in the calculator. That's going to give us negative 25 for the value of C. What are we asked to answer with? Always double check that. That's the value of C, so we're good. Answer there is going to be C, which is negative 25. Let's go ahead and move to the other side of the screen now. Okay, this one got a lot of fractions going on here. Okay, let me try to get this all in frame. Got a lot of fractions going on. Given system of equations, P is a constant. If the system has no solution, what is the value of P? Okay, I see that this is linear. It's not quadratic, so we're not dealing with b squared minus 4ac when we see no solution. We're dealing with two parallel lines with a different y-intercept. So in order for a linear system of equations to have no solution, you need two parallel lines, different y-intercepts. So that means you need same slope. So that being said, I'm going to convert these into standard linear form because it looks easier to do that since this top one is almost in it. So let me go ahead and add 3 over 2y to each side. Okay, now this becomes 0, so that is gone. Add 3 over 2y over here. That's going to give me right here a 3y. So I'll have 3y minus 1/4 x is equal to 2/3. Okay, from there, let me get my slope. We need to solve for P, so we need to know the slope up here. Okay, our slope is going to be m equals negative a over b. We know our a value here is negative 1/4. Negative 1/4 gets us positive 1/4, divided by our b value, which is 3. So dividing by 3 here. Okay, 1/4 divided by 3 will give us 1 over 12. Or let me see, am I missing a, no, that's right, because we got negative 1/4, so negative 1/4 gets us that positive 1/4. All right, so we got our slope there. Now we need to get the same slope, so 1/12, in this equation down here. So let's go ahead and let's get this in the same standard linear form. So let's go ahead and subtract py from both sides here. Okay, so we got minus py plus 1/2 x. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that same slope of 1/12. So we've got m equals negative a. We know our a value is 1/2, so negative 1/2. And keep in mind that our slope actually has to equal 1/12, so we can go ahead and put in 1 over 12 here. That's going to be negative 1/2, and then all over, so divided by, I'm going to put divided by like this time. Divided by our b value, which is negative p, so divided by negative p over 1. Okay, which we can multiply by the reciprocal since we're dividing this fraction. So that'd be multiplying by 1 over negative p. By 1 over negative p. Okay, our negative signs will cancel out. Okay, so I'm going to erase those negative signs because they're going to cancel. And we're going to be left with 1/12 is equal to 1/2 times 1 over p. In this case, we see that 2 times p, or 2 times 6 would give us that 12. So p is going to have to equal 12 there. So p is going to have to equal 6, right? 6 times 2 gets us that 12. Okay, so P would equal 6. What is the value of P is what we're asked to answer with, and the value of P there would be 6. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and consider sending a super thanks to help support my channel. Additionally, please drop a comment below letting me know what videos you want me to make in the future, and if you are looking for additional educational services that I offer, please check out my website, haydenrhodea.com.